Broadcasting from a galaxy not so far away, this is Inalienable Rites, the podcast that will take you on a journey across continents from North America to Africa to the Caribbean and back again. The Stewart family will share their stories and all they've learned about life, faith, and the pursuit of medicine.
Hello, our fellow aliens. This is the Inalienable Rites podcast.
Welcome.
I'm Justin.
I'm Alyssa.
And we are so happy to have you back here again for episode number 3.
We don't have them back again. We're just back again, technically.
We're back again. Well, hopefully you're back again, too.
Okay. It's late at night, honestly, when we're recording this, so we look tired.
We've
That's
had some fun technical difficulties with our microphones being frustrating, and computers and all that good stuff.
And we don't love technology to begin with, so
it's a fancy way of saying we're old.
speak for yourself.
Well, as we're recording this, we have just recently celebrated our 12th wedding anniversary.
Not our 13th,
Not the 13th.
as previously supposed.
And I am finishing up my 5th semester at Ross here in Barbados. And so it's kind of a good time for me to be thinking about where we've come from and how we got here. And, so we're kind of continuing our story a little bit here.
So if you're keeping track, you could call this part 3, I guess.
Part 3. So we're going to rewind now for a few minutes. We're going to go back to the end of August 2023, where we have left you in our past episodes. We had packed up everything, mostly everything, into a container. I had this sprained ankle, and I was going to leave Alyssa and the kids behind for about a week, and I was getting on a plane coming to Barbados. And when I landed in Barbados, the first thing that struck me was, man, it is hot and it is humid and it is really sticky here. Just getting off was like, oh man, this could be miserable for the next 2 years. But anyway,
It is hot.
it is hot.
Especially August.
But we got
August,
used to it.
September are like pretty brutal, honestly, here. But
And now I love it. So, but truthfully, when I got here, it was like really like all these emotions, because I was super excited because I was finally starting medical school. I've been waiting a long time, going through these application processes, so that was really exciting. But then on the other hand, it was weird because I had to spend the first week here by myself, and we hadn't really spent more than a few days away from each other up until that point, so that was hard. And plus I had this sprained ankle, so I was like hobbling around trying to get to the bus and going on all these things. I had to go on a bus tour. I got to see the island of Barbados. We get to drive by Rihanna's house, her childhood home. Barbados is really, really beautiful, and I just remember thinking, this is a really awesome place to come and to study medicine. But I was super excited to finally get my family to come after a week, but I just really wanted them to love it, because I can't remember if we told this story before, but your experience in Africa was not so great.
I think we briefly mentioned just that, like, no, I feel like we briefly touched on it.
But I really wanted them to like it, because we're going to be here for 2 years, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time studying. And so I wanted her and the kids, to have things to do, and Coverley's kind of this cool little community, but the houses are really, really small. I think we're going to talk about Coverley a little bit, maybe in a future episode, just about what it's like to live there in the house and everything. But so I was here a week before them, and then she came, and we had this big plan. We're going to bring Fluffy with us to come and join us. Fluffy was the cat. So maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so
experience.
One of the things, I think I mentioned in the last episode, that we had to find homes for all our animals. We had a dog and 3 cats. Shout out to McCall and James, who took Martha, the dog. And then the 3 cats was another issue. We did last minute kind of find somebody to take 2 of the cats, and we had planned to take 1 with us. And that was Fluffy, and it was a whole ordeal, and I can't go too deep into it because it's kind of a long and hard to follow story. But basically, you have to get all these things in order. You have to have this like immigration paperwork to bring the cat. You have to have an import certificate from Barbados. And then within a week of flying, you have to have a vet certificate and all these things. So we thought we were on track. Like we were even had gotten a import, I don't even know, like a broker to like work with us. Like, and in my mind,
so we were paying money to
in my mind, they were kind of telling us like, here's how you do it. And they were helping us with the import certificate and all the things. Unfortunately, we were just kind of given not false information, but nobody deeply explained things. They just left it up to me to, I guess, read and understand. And since I'd never done any kind of animal importation, I did not have a full understanding. I thought I did at the time. I thought I had all my like T's crossed, I's dotted, all the things. But anyways, what happened was it kind of ended up being last minute. Fluffy actually left home for like 5 days right before we left, and we were kind of panicking. But he showed up just in time, and I thought this is going to be great. Took him to the vet, got the thing signed, all the things. Get him on the plane. Me and a cat and 3 kids by myself and 10 suitcases, nothing big, And we get to Barbados, and literally we almost get through the whole, like, walked off the plane, no one said anything, get through the immigration line, no one said anything, literally walk outside the airport. And I think it was that point that somebody saw by the door, they're like, oh, you have an animal there. I was like, yeah. And they were like, then they treated me like I was trying to hide it. I was like, I was not trying to hide it. No one told me what to do. I just, I assumed you knew I was bringing one in since it's registered on my flight and etc. Anyways, took me back, and basically they would not let the cat in. No amount of pleading or like asking, like, how can we, like, we were just like, is there any way around this? Like, we were not in any way trying to bribe. We don't do that. But I just was like, look, can you rectify this? Like, the issue was I had this rabies vaccine paperwork. It wasn't signed by my vet, even though it's on the vet's letterhead and all that stuff. Because the vet's signature was not on that rabies paperwork, they told us that the wrong vet. Well, I'll get to that too. But they told us that they can't accept it because they don't know for sure if it has the rabies vaccine. And I was like, well, is there not a vet that they can draw like a titer or something? Like, is there some way to prove this? Because we've got the vaccine anyways. But the other thing we did wrong was the certificate from the vet, and I didn't know this. It just said something like a certified vet, and I, in my thinking, thought a vet is a vet, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if they have a license, does that not make them certified? But apparently it does not, and nobody told me that. But it's supposed to be a specific USDA, like, federal vet. And I had no idea. Now I know, but I didn't at the time. Nobody told me. I had talked to multiple people, like prior students and stuff too, and nobody had mentioned that little piece of advice that it has to be a federal USDA certified vet. So anyways, they wouldn't accept it. And basically they told us, like, you have 48 hours, maybe they said, to figure out how to get the cat back, or we're going to euthanize it. They
threatened us. They were going to kill our cat.
Yeah.
If we didn't get it out of the country within like 24 hours.
And then they tried to tell us that there was...
It was crazy.
There was ways that we could send it via cargo. And I tried to ask, like, okay, what airlines do that? And they were like, couldn't tell me. They were
very unhelpful.
Yeah, and I was like, I had literally called 4 airlines, and I told the vet that. I said, look, I've called 4 different airlines. None of them do this. Can you tell me who she was acted as if I was attacking her. Like, oh, well, I know we've had people do this before. It's like, okay, that's why I'm literally asking you what airlines. That's why I'm asking. I just need to know. Anyways, we ended up doing is having just pay out of pocket like $1,500 for me to fly back with the cat to Canada, and then drop it off to my mom and literally fly back. But in the meantime,
the heartbreaking thing was just Samuel's response.
Especially Samuel.
Told him he really loved that cat.
That was why we were bringing that cat, because I thought he really wanted it, and that I thought that would help, his transition. And he was just completely heartbroken, like wailing.
And he has never forgiven Barbados for making us send our cat back.
Is still upset about it to this day. So it was just a really tough situation, very emotional because
they were crying and
it was like a culmination of, for me at least, it was like a culmination of all the stress, all the things we just endured all these weeks, and the cat had gone missing for 5 days and then came back, so we were all excited because at first we were oh, we can't take it, and then he showed up and we were yes, we can take it, and so it was just this roller coaster of emotions, and then in that moment of
and
there's
everybody, this is their
do.
introduction to Barbados.
Yeah.
So I'd already been here a week, and I'd just been praying, I just hope they're going to love it, and this is going to be a good experience. We really thought this was going to be a good family experience for us all to come here, and it just was not a good introduction.
Yeah.
But in the middle of that, though, there was a really big bright spot that sort of was the introduction, the beginning of the positive experience that we were going to have in Barbados.
Did you
want to tell that?
So one thing that was kind of cool was, before we came, it's hard to know sometimes how much detail to go into. Okay, so before we came...
Hold on, before we get into that, I did want to just make one little sort of side note. For anybody who maybe has come across this podcast, you're listening, you're thinking about going to Ross. Well, if you want to bring a cat to Barbados, please make sure you do all the research ahead of time and make sure you get the right vet to sign the right place, because that was a nightmare.
And anybody who I've talked to since then who is bringing animal, I always tell them that, because maybe it was just me and I'm dumb, but just in case.
Because we got advice too. We got advice.
And we were talking with brokers and everything, but anyways, somehow that got passed over.
But anyway, the bright spot. No.
So the bright spot was, just basically right after he accepted his seat with Ross and we knew we were coming, we got in touch with the Ross Spouses Organization.
Big plug.
Ahead of time.
Great organization.
So it's a club. It's a club that is part of the Ross thing here at school. So the students and their families can be a part of it.
Especially students who are coming with a spouse or significant other.
Yeah, specifically that. But we have had some single students that also joined in as, they were friends of other people or whatever, and it's been great. So, anyways, so we got in touch, and basically they do something called this sponsorship thing. So you fill out their form, and they connect you with somebody that's already on the island, a family that's on the island that hopefully can kind of maybe has some things in that are similar to you. So maybe they have the same, age kids or whatever. So we got connected with somebody named Heidi, and she was going to be our sponsor. Her husband Josh was a student. They had 2 little boys, etc. So basically the purpose of it is just to be in contact, so they can answer questions we have about living on the island, life on the island, what to bring, what to pack.
So all the questions.
The things.
Where to shop, where to find a car, all the...
Super helpful things. So we had gotten into contact with her beforehand, and so when when Justin landed on the island, he she connected with him or whatever. I think she had some things.
I even had dinner.
Because she had some things that we had purchased or whatever that she was holding on to for us. But so he had connected with them. So anyways, when this all happened, the day that we arrived, she actually came over that night, and I was just so mentally and emotionally done. So I didn't even actually talk to her that night because I was just I cannot see anybody. I was just an emotional mess. I was so sad about this cat situation, and just honestly, I said,
not a good introduction.
Just the culmination of all the things, all the stress I've been dealing with, trying to pack up the house and just traveling with my kids alone, everything. It was just a lot. And so that night I was just I cannot. So that night I was literally just on the phone. I was literally calling all the different airlines, trying to find a way to
booking flights and all that stuff. Yeah.
So she came while I was kind of on the phone in the midst of that, and I think she dropped off muffins or something, but she just kind of came to say hi. And again, I didn't actually talk to her, but Justin kind of told her, here's the situation, this is what's going on.
And I had to go to class the next day.
Yeah, so he had class the next day, and so we're just trying to figure all that out, and she just just book whatever you need to book, I can babysit the kids, I'll take care of them, just, you do what you need to do, and we'll make sure that,
and she
everything's
did
taken care of.
for the whole day. She took the kids.
So I had to leave at 2 o'clock the next afternoon, and so I took the kids over to her house around noon. Her husband actually drove me to the airport, dropped me off at the airport, and then she watched the kids until Justin got back at dinner time that night, and then the next morning, I ended up flying back from Canada the next morning at 8 o'clock a.m. Obviously, Justin had the kids, so he dropped them off at like 7 or whatever at her house so he could go to class for 8. And then I got back. I landed like 2:30 and came from the airport to her house, picked up the kids and whatever. So I think
it was just like a God moment.
Yeah, it was just like this moment of like, and I guess I didn't actually expressly say this, but they are Christians.
And not from,
shout out to them if you guys happen to listen to this.
And not from our theological persuasion either, by the way. So it was
different
kinda,
denomination.
It was just kind of cool that like God had somebody there that we became good friends with for the rest of the time that we were here together.
That was such
an introduction.
Yeah, it was such a God moment for us to be like, wow, to so uniquely and expressly feel
the love
of God. Like that's what it felt like to us. Like that's what it felt like. This
Christ.
was a God thing. Like somebody came forward and just said, "Hey, I want to help."
People who've known us for years who wouldn't do that.
Didn't do it. Yes. So I don't want to get too much into that at this point. Maybe we'll talk more about that another time. But yeah, so I think for us it was just like in that moment when we felt so down emotionally, it was just like that bright spot. And so definitely, I think for me at least, kind of right at the beginning of our Ross journey, it sparked something for me of like kind of inspired me to be like, hey, I want to do that for somebody else. I want to be the person who can meet that need in somebody else's life, who can be the one to step up and say, hey, I know you have a need right now and I have the ability to meet it. And so, yeah.
And it really was a little token because there's a certain pastor friend of ours who has really spoken into our life a lot, and kind of near the beginning of our journey, maybe even before we left, I can't remember exactly the timing of it, but she had this little word of encouragement for us that she really thought that this was going to be a time of refreshing for us. And that really was like just a little token of what was to come in our trip in Barbados, our time in Barbados, where at Coverley, which is like the Ross student housing where most of the students live, there was this community. We made friends and lifelong friends with people, and especially you with Riley and Heidi, and it was just really, really the beginning of something cool. So in the midst of that kind of awful situation, God had a little bright spot. So
yeah. I'm trying to decide if we should keep talking.
I mean, I think
we had so much more in the notes. Yeah. Before we started, I said, Justin, those are some really long notes.
I think this is a great place to end this one, but we'll continue on.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to finish that thought here, but about the church and stuff. It's hard to know. There's so much like that could be said.
We'll pick it up on the next side.
Yeah, so, I think we'll pick it up.
So thank you all for coming and listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Watching us.
Whether you're watching on YouTube or following us and listening on Spotify or Google or any of the other places.
This is the Inalienable Rites podcast, where we are telling stories of life, faith, and the pursuit of medicine. So we'll stop for there. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Inalienable Rites podcast. You can find Justin and Alyssa on Instagram at Inalienable Rites Podcast and email them at inalienableritspodcast@gmail.com with any questions or topics you want them to discuss in the future. See you on the other side of the wormhole.